are these people?
So, so yeah, as I said earlier, this is a story that kind of gained traction a little bit last week in terms of Trump's nomination, for Kash Patel to head up the FBI. So that got a little bit of noise, but I do think it's important to kind of talk about the others that are connected to Trump's potential candidate. Now, granted, keep in mind all of these are nominations. They may not end up getting these nominations come January, but it's a good idea to kind of figure out where a lot of their ideology is at. And honestly, I think it's just good to kind of be aware of the fuck shit that we are going to go through, especially given what's happening in the Middle East right now and has been happening, and how this upcoming administration will probably make it worse depending on who is actually in there. And I think shout out to Kit Klarenburg for actually kind of summarizing all of that and then kind of talking a little bit more about the ideology of many of the people that Trump have nominated. So let's get into it. So he writes, Trump's pro-Israel dream team.
Before we get into it, I just wanted to kind of remind people, a lot of people, especially our libertarian friends and right-wing friends, kind of look past a lot of this stuff because they're hopeful, and want to have change that they think will work. I just want you to know they're elected officials. They are meant to pander to you. So, try to look past the initial first layer, which we're going to do with this article. So, just keep your eyes open and not buy into the bullshit, please and thank you. Anyway, continue.
So Kit writes, Trump's pro-Israel dream team, Patel nomination caps Hawkish cabinet. Actually, can you close some of your screens?
Yes.
Please?
How about this? Would you like that?
There we go.
That's nice, isn't it?
Okay. So Kit writes, catch up. On November 30th, Donald Trump nominated Kash Patel to serve as FBI director. A staunch MAGA activist and loyalist with significant standing in Trump's orbit, Patel aligns closely with the president-elect on both domestic and foreign policy matters. Indeed, he appears to struggle to pinpoint areas of disagreement with Trump's agenda. So basically, he's a simp. Patel has consistently advocated for a hardline approach to China and is an unabashed supporter of Israeli interests, often prioritizing them over U.S. considerations. On October 7th, marking the first anniversary of the Hamas attack, Patel delivered a fiery interview on Fox News. During the segment, he felt that the incoming Trump administration would intensify its crackdown on anti-Israeli elements. We should be side by side with Israel. Where we are back in power with President Trump, we will shut off the machinery that feeds money into Iran. We need America to wake up and prioritize Israel, and that is not what Kamala Harris is about. We need to bring home Americans and end this war, bring home Israelis, assuming they're alive at this point, and stand by our number one ally in Israel, and people need to wake up on November 5th.
Okay.
A relative political outsider who has never occupied high office, the media has been awash with profiles of Patel and fevered speculation about what his management of the Bureau could mean in practice ever since. In the process, he has been subject to a level of mainstream scrutiny and criticism that was entirely lacking over recent weeks, as Trump filled his cabinet with a rogues gallery of dedicated hawks, hardcore pro-Israeli elements, and characters both unknown and notorious with potential extremist ties and views. For some, the composition of Trump's cabinet is a crushing disappointment. On November 9th, Trump caused shockwaves when he announced neither Nikki Haley nor Mike Pompeo would be invited to join his administration in any capacity. The news, coupled with comments he made in a late October appearance on Joe Rogan's popular podcast, perked optimism in some quarters that the president-elect's longstanding anti-war posturing could produce real-world results in Ukraine, if not as elsewhere. In his discussion with Rogan, Trump professed that the biggest mistake of his first term was he picked a few people that I shouldn't have picked, neocons or bad people or disloyal people, among them John Bolton, John Bolton's, period.
Mm-hmm.
Haley was the U.S. ambassador to UN under Trump and perhaps the most ardent, outspoken Zionist ever to fill the role. She, Bolton, and Pompeo, who personally orchestrated Iranian General Wassem Soleimani's assassination, among other hostile deeds, were widely regarded as the administration's leading hawks. Yet, any slight hope that the pair's absence from Trump's new White House might herald an influx of some doves, and in turn, a more peaceful shift from the US government, was comprehensively dashed when the president's transition team nominations began rolling in. Now the cabinet is fully stocked. Countless millions around the world have urgent and grave concerns about what the future could hold for them, their families, countries, regions, and more. In particular, Trump's prospective government can already claim the mantle of the most fervently pro-Israel in U.S. I'm not sure if that can even be true, but whatever. This is despite replacing an administration that has done more than any before to accelerate, encourage, and facilitate Israel's war on Gaza. The prospect that Tel Aviv's deadly assaults on Gaza and Lebanon, and probably now Syria, will escalate somehow further is now not only very real, but seemingly inevitable. However, as we shall see, there are minor rays of hope among the mass doom and gloom. So, I mean, I appreciate Kit's optimism,
Yeah.
but given who he's going to mention, I can't necessarily agree, though I understand why. He will get to that later. But anyway, let's talk about some of these figureheads, shall we?
Yep.
New Secretary of State Marco Rubio hardly needs any introduction as one of the most pro-war members of the modern U.S. political class. Since his career kicked off in 2000, he has been consistently among the loudest voices on how America officially designated enemy states that should be dealt with, be that China, Iran, Venezuela, or otherwise. Threats of sanctions, coups, and military intervention are almost a daily staple of his political oratory. A close friend of Bibi, in 2019, Rubio co-sponsored a Senate resolution condemning U.S. Security Council resolutions designating Jewish settlements expansion in occupied Palestine as a violation of international law. He has referred to Israel's mass murder in Gaza since October 7th as legitimate self-defense, claimed Hamas is 100% to blame for any civilian casualties inflicted by the horrific onslaught, and honestly declared Palestinian resistance must be eradicated, as Tel Aviv cannot coexist with these savages.
So weak.
The media has reported that the Trump administration is already concocting plans to bankrupt Iran with maximum pressure upon taking office. Rubio, who has long called for tightening already crippling sanctions on Tehran, is reportedly at the forefront of this effort alongside nominated National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, a Pentagon journeyman who has recently sat on the House Armed Services Committee. At an event convened by NATO adjunct the Atlantic Council in October, Waltz bragged, "Just 4 years ago, Iran's currency was tanking. They were truly on the back foot. We need to get back to that posture."
Mm-hmm.
Neutralizing Iran has long been touted as a prerequisite for reclaiming Israel's waning dominance in West Asia. Any measure that destabilizes Tehran economically, militarily, or politically diminishes its capacity to curb Israel's actions, leaving Tel Aviv emboldened to act without restraint. So, in other words, the Greater Israel Plan
Yep.
that Netanyahu has mentioned he has wanted to do forever.
Mm-hmm.
The logic is stark. Weakening Iran strengthens Israel. With the Trump administration, with its hawkish alignment, policies serving this end will likely be met with uncritical endorsement. Already, Trump has pledged to lift the new remaining restrictions and end delays in the supply of military equipment and ammunition to Israel immediately after his inauguration. This includes an embargo of certain weapons shipments and limitations on various combat-related equipment. This embargo reportedly impacts Israel's warfighting capabilities as its forces struggle with multiple self-initiated active battlefronts requiring strict control over ammunition supply and use. I
Yep.
mean, it's not. It's really hard to believe that Trump is going to add more when I feel like the Democrats under Biden have been fairly lax too, in terms of that. So I don't know. It just almost feels surreal that oh
Yeah.
no, like
New boss, same as the old boss.
right,
No
yeah. It just
difference.
kind of seems right. It's just more to me just an extension without that difference to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's
but
almost like
anyway,
politics is just all kayfabe, and the real masters decide what we want anyway. So,
the pro-Israel credentials of Senator Marco Rubio and Representative Michael Waltz are unquestionable. Yet their fervor for supporting Israel's controversial policies pales in comparison to some of President-elect Donald Trump's other nominees. Take Mike Huckabee, the ultra-conservative former Arkansas governor and twice failed presidential candidate,
yes,
now tapped to serve as U.S. ambassador to Israel.
Huckabee.
Huckabee, an ordained Southern Baptist pastor, wasted no time
Pasta.
declaring his intention. Yeah. You should put that on the soundboard.
Pasta. Sure.
He vowed to publicly refer to Israel in biblical terms, calling it the Promised Land, and proclaimed that Jews hold a rightful deed to Palestinian territory. Under what grounds, sir?
Jesus is the bread.
Not even. Like, that doesn't relate to the Jews?
It relates to their thoughts about it. Anyway.
Yes. Despite its unwavering consensus on Israel, Trump's cabinet has been labeled eclectic by the mainstream press, and not without cause. Alongside establishment stalwarts like Huckabee and Rubio, Trump has tapped figures long considered political outsiders. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a polarizing figure in his own right, has been nominated for a senior post.
Nothing bad ever happens to the Kennedys!
Pete Hegseth, a Fox News host and U.S. military veteran, has also emerged from the fringes to claim a role in Trump's cabinet. Hegseth, who quietly advised Trump during his first term, pushed for the pardons of American soldiers convicted of heinous war crimes, a campaign that, in some cases, was effective.
I'm starting to see a pattern.
Hegseth, a contender for defense secretary, has made his allegiances to Israel unmistakably clear. He has described Israel's settler population as God's chosen people. He has openly advocated for transforming Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque into a Jewish-only recreation of the historic Temple Mount, framing such an act as a miracle. At a 2018 National Council of Young Israel Gala in New York City, Hegseth left no room for ambiguity. Zionism and Americanism are the front lines of Western civilization. I would argue colonization and all these nations, not that, have freedom in our world today.
Wow, incredible!
Such disturbing comments have elicited little media interest since Hegseth's nomination. Gee, I wonder why. However, NPR has chronicled his unsettling array of tattoos, including a Jerusalem cross, a Christian emblem with origins in the Crusades, and the land phrase Deus Vult. I checked it. I think it means go with God. I think Deus is God. Yep. I did check this, but I think it does mean go with God, if I remember correctly. Often interpreted as a call to reclaim the Holy Land through the slaughter of Muslims. Both symbols have been co-opted by neo-Nazi groups.
Of course they have.
Perhaps predictably, Hegseth's 2020 book, American Crusade, brims with incendiary Islamophobic rhetoric.
Of course.
Another wildcard nomination is Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence. So currently a politician and serving U.S. military officer, for years she occupied a dissent, doubted space on the Democratic left, all along smeared as an Assad or Putin apologist for our anti-war positions.
I would argue those are questionable, which he's about to do.
However, However, she acrimoniously quit the party in October 2022, slamming it as under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly wokeness and for reportedly stoking anti-white racism. Gabbard had, by that point, been distancing herself from previous held progressive stances on issues such as abortion and LGBTQ rights, and she has rapidly grown ever more conservative since formally joining the Republican Party. Despite her long-standing criticism of U.S. military interventionism, Gabbard effusively supports Israel, opposing any limits on its assaults on Gaza and Lebanon. She has slandered protesters critical of Israel as puppets of a radical Islamic organization, accusing them of supporting Hamas.
And her connection to Modi, not great when we see what Modi's willing to do with Israel as well. Like, there's some fucking bullshit there. I mean, again, these are all people that have pandered directly to entire groups, but when it comes to what the fucking powerful actually want, they seem to be in lockstep. Funny how that fucking works. Like... Anyway, continue.
Yeah. Despite her inflammatory rhetoric and overt support for Israel's most belligerent policies, Gabbard's nomination as Director of National Intelligence could be a silver lining in Trump's cabinet. The position wields immense power, coordinating the works of America's sprawling intelligence apparatus across 18 agencies. Since the announcement, deep anxiety has rippled through intelligence circles on both sides of the Atlantic, with veterans voicing fears about the potential consequences of her leadership. Trump spent much of his first term at war with the U.S. intelligence community. The president and his supporters quite legitimately accused the CIA, FBI, et al. Of seeking to undermine and sabotage his first term in office. On November 24th, The Economist forecast, based on interviews with U.S. and European intelligence officials, a likely mass exodus from American spying agencies, as many operatives are fearing at failing foul of Trump and Gabbard, under whom spies are on notice. Gabbard's disdain for American spy agency Alphabet Soup was writ large in her April book, For Love of Country. She blamed the CIA, FBI, and a whole network of rogue intelligence and law enforcement agents working at the highest levels of the U.S. government, in conjunction with the Democratic National Committee, propaganda media, and big tech, for America's most egregious ills. She declared this shadowy nexus so dangerous that even our elected officials are afraid to cross them. Gabbard reserved some of her sharpest criticism of the intelligence community's role in fueling the Ukraine proxy war, accusing it of laying the groundwork for conflict to benefit defense contractors. But yet you don't see the same thing with Israel, though. How would their friends in the military-industrial complex make trillions of dollars from the fear they fomented in America and Europe by stoking the fires of the new Cold War? She wrote. American spies, it seems, are taking her seriously. We are all reeling, a current intelligence official
no, they're not.
Multiple administrations told Time magazine following the announcement of her nomination.
That's them saying, we're shaking in our boots. They're like fucking with you. They're not afraid. Like, they're getting everything they want. How could they be upset?
Per the Daily Telegraph, the intelligence community in London is likewise alarmed by Gabbard's nomination. The doggedly pro-Ukraine outlet quoted a number of British defense figures which slammed the move in the harshest possible terms. Disgraced former MI6 chief Richard Dearlove attacked the maverick appointment, lambasting her lack of experience of intelligence and security. Elsewhere, former British Army Tank Commander Hamish de Breton Gordon angst that the special relationship between Britain and the US could be impacted. The perspectives of Dearlove and de Breton Gordon are striking, for both having long histories of exploiting the special relationship to further London's ends and bounty US intelligence and military establishment info war. MI6 Dearlove was responsible for cooking up false intelligence that formed the basis of the formal British and US case for invading Iraq. The consequence Chilcot inquiry was completely damning of his activities in this regard.
Mm.
Its report noted that Dearlove personally informed Prime Minister Tony Blair that Baghdad could definitely strike Britain with chemical and biological weapons within 45 minutes, and this information had been provided to MI6 by an Iraqi with phenomenal access to the highest levels of Saddam Hussein's government. That false claim was central to London's justification for war, and
Yep.
much repeated in the media at the time. In
Yep.
reality, British spies were furnished with the claim indirectly by a taxi driver. More recently, Dearlove was a central figure in Russiagate and a prominent advocate for the credibility of former MI6 operative Christopher Steele and his Trump-Russia dossier in the media, despite the document's self-evident falsity and concerns about his veracity within British and U.S. intelligence circles. Russiagate was clearly intended to ensure relations between Washington and Moscow didn't improve under Trump, and were it not for the belligerent stance resultantly taken by this administration, the Ukraine proxy war could well have been avoided. Hamish shipper Tom Gordon also played a personal role in pushing for a U.S. war in Syria. He was part of an MI6 operation that smuggled oil samples out of Syria, reportedly to prove the Syrian government's responsibility for chemical weapons attacks. These samples were later revealed to be falsified. A senior Western source acknowledged in August 2013 that the true aim of British intelligence was to pressure Washington into the direct boots-on-the-ground military intervention a la Iraq.
Yep.
And we're seeing...
Now look what happened.
Now looks what's happening. See? While that catastrophe outcome was avoided at least then, a supposed government chemical weapons attack in Dogma in April 2018 succeeded in pushing Trump to launch missile strikes against Syria. Leaked documents and independent investigations have since revealed that this incident was staged by British intelligence operatives and their assets. Notably, Gabbard publicly criticized Trump's response, questioning whether Dogma was a stage ruse by the opposition to prolong the conflict at a time when the White House appeared ready to de-escalate. With Gabbard in the role of DNI, the sway of intelligence agencies over political decisions and the readiness of figures like Rubio, Trump, and Waltz to act on dubious intelligence could be blunted. While this may not provide immediate solace to the Palestinians, who remain under constant threat of death and displacement, it could signal a positive shift in the unchecked influence of British and U.S. intelligence on the White House.
Bullshit. Sorry, Kit.
Care to explain?
She's looked the other way whenever it's convenient for her. I don't get why controlled opposition fucking exists. This is the lady who endorsed Joseph Biden, okay? She plays the game. I don't see why there's any difference in what she's willing to do. It's the same thing when they think Kennedy's gonna fucking do, let alone these people might not even make it through the fucking hearings. Right. What is it? 47 Nobel laureates said RFK shouldn't be there. Fucking 8 strongly worded letters to keep Gabbard out. I swear it's all so they could fucking sell I'm anti-establishment book sales. Did we not learn with Bernie? Politicians lie to you while they smile and wave. People forgot what fucking old politicians act like. It's scary. Anyway, sorry. I know Kit's trying to have some hope here, but it ain't there, dog. So
these tentative grounds for optimism are somewhat reinforced by Patel's nomination as FBI director.
No, it's not.
As a committed Israel firster, he comfortably aligns with the rest of Trump's prospective cabinet, and one might expect that mainstream news outlets eager to advance a pro-Israel agenda would embrace him as a result. Yet the media's response has been anything but supportive. The New York Times warns that Patel would bring bravado and baggage to the role, while the Washington Post branded him as a dangerous and unqualified choice to lead the bureau. No.
Yeah, I'm not buying
I just feel like they're only going after him because he's a Republican. Well, he's siding with Trump. That's it. Like,
Yeah,
we
normally
didn't
they'd
hear
be
this much with
be all
anyone
for it.
else on the Democrats.
I mean, the
Like,
only thing I've
I
seen
mean, for
about
example, we're not necessarily the media is not calling out people like Richie Torres or John
no,
Fetterman, who are like the biggest Israel Sims on the Democratic
no,
Party there is. So, granted, they don't have these higher
no.
positions,
It's
but
just the
still,
fact that he said some stuff they don't like occasionally, but he still plays ball. He wouldn't be there if he didn't. No one gets to these positions without being compromised. I'm sorry. Like, it just doesn't happen. And like, same with Bhattacharya too. No offense. I'm sure some people like him because he put out a particular fucking, declaration, but he wasn't the only one. Like, and has had plenty of problems, and all of them seemingly are more than okay with a little greater Israel shit. So, like, I don't even like this looking for hopeful in whatever, like, so yeah, there's some, I think people are like, again, they're looking for hope, and it's like, it's not there, and they're like, they're taking any crumb that they can get at this point. So,
right.
And willing to ignore a lot. Not that that's what Kit's doing. I know that's who he's speaking to,
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, continue.
The Atlantic, run by longtime pro-Israel activist Jeffrey Goldberg, has intensified the scrutiny of Patel, publishing multiple hit pieces in recent weeks. A November 30th op-ed warned that senior FBI officials would likely resign rather than serve under Patel, which would potentially suit Trump just fine. The Trump article concluded, if Trump's goal is to break the FBI and undermine its missions, Kash Patel is the perfect nominee. This may well be one of the administration's core objectives, on top of galvanizing Israel. That I can agree with.
Yeah.
Patel has vowed that a future Trump administration would come after government officials, intelligence agency leaders, journalists, and other establishment figures he associates with what he describes as the Russiagate hoax. It's hardly surprising that these same factions view his rise and the broader ascent of a new administration with trepidation.
Yeah, and I also don't think that that's his goal. They say that that's what they're going to do, but I don't think that. Like, there's been no inclination to me of they'll actually try to take down the deep state, because he was already in office. He could have done a lot of that crap when he was there. He didn't. If anything, he made them stronger. And I guarantee you, with all the talks of digital IDs and all that stuff, that's what will be more than likely. You got to look at all that, who's connected to these people, how much Peter Thiel has paid for people to be here. He's all for all that crap. How many PayPal Mafia members are in this? We got Sachs. We got Peter Thiel's people all over the place. Right? Like, we got to go a couple of layers deeper on this to see through that. So, but anyway,
like Gabbard, Patel's combative disdain for the U.S. deep state offers little solace. His stance does not mitigate, let alone counteract, his pro-Israel leanings or the Trump administration's aggressive resolve to ensure that Israel's actions in Gaza, which human rights groups characterize as a genocide, proceed to that grim conclusion. Yet, one might argue that the left could find itself in a stronger position to oppose the ongoing atrocities in Gaza under a Republican administration that makes no pretense of sympathy for the Palestinians. Unlike democratic governments, which weaponize progressive rhetoric to attempt to shame solidarity activists and progressive dissents into supporting its doggedly pro-Israel actions, the Trump administration's overtly pro-Israel stance strips away such falsifications.
Pause.
And the possibility...
That sentence, where it's like, unlike democratic governments, which weaponize progressive rhetoric to attempt to shame... It's the same thing in reverse. We're using conservative rhetoric to, like, that's what we're doing. Right. Like, yeah,
Right.
anti-government, anti-whatever, anti-deep state. We're going to push that in. But really, it's same story as always, you know? So that's what I'm seeing. I don't know about anybody else, but anyway, not to interrupt too
And the
much.
well, this is the last part. And the
Okay.
possibility that entrenched institutions like the CIA and FBI, longstanding adversaries of progress and justice in America, might finally face accountability for their actions could be a potential silver lining. Watch this space. I mean,
It's not
no,
happening, dog. Sorry to say.
no. I think, and look, we love Kit here. And that, again, I do appreciate the optimism, but, and I'm saying, and I mean, Kit looking from, because Kit is based in the UK,
Yeah.
like, it's, I don't want to say it's easier to be optimistic when you're not necessarily in the hornet's nest as I am and we are. And I get the hopefulness. I just, and I mean, I've said
Yeah.
this on this show. Yes, I think people are going to be more activated
And I think
in
Klarenburg
terms
knows.
of, but I think again, that's just going to be more like
Yeah.
it's just the fad. Like people hate Trump that much that, well, I would argue that maybe the real people will be doing it anyway. Like there's a lot of so-called online activists who basically said, I'm out because you didn't vote for my girl Kamala, so you guys are on your own. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But I think just the regular schmegular people will probably come out to protest a lot more given what Trump is going to do. But it's not going, I don't think it's going to necessarily amount to any change in policy
Uh-huh.
at all,
If
especially
you're
given that,
if you're looking for
especially given that
saviors
Republican,
in
I might
politics,
agree,
you're going to be
I might
disappointed.
agree, I might agree if like it was a split Congress, but it's not.
It's not.
Uh,
No.
So they're just going to go all in and they're just going to be as crazy as possible, knowing that they can get away with shit, and we're going to suffer the consequence of that. So that's not to say there could be some wrenches, that is a possibility. I just don't think it's likely.
No, if anything,
Because especially given Israel, like, yeah, they're gonna scream louder, like, oh, like as I say, we might hear the word genocide from the mainstream media, but it's not like they're gonna push back any in terms of what BB is planning to do. They're just gonna
No.
be like, oh, look at what they're just gonna blame BB and not necessarily focus at least on that
Blame it on
issue.
a baby.
But how Trump is being complicit in that. They might, but it's not like they're gonna stand in part of the resistance against Trump in light of Israel's actions.
No.
So I don't know. At least on that,
No,
maybe we'll get lucky.
I think
on
if anything,
other issues, but
you'll
I
get
think
thrown a crumb
God's like
that like can't actually make it through anything, especially with Congress the way it is, right? Like, you know, you'll have someone like a Tulsi or an RFK or a whatever. Yeah, I doubt they'll make it as far as into the actual administration, right? One or two maybe. But more than likely they're gonna get like, you know, someone's gonna tell Trump to get his mind right. You know, like Congress is not gonna allow those people through. You know, Senate, sorry. And then all these people look like are like, you know, martyrs for the cause. Well, Trump tried to, but they didn't let, you know, like it allows them to appear as outsiders regardless. And if they get in, they throw a couple of bones here or there that don't actually make it through and don't really matter much. You know, they let some information out everyone kind of already knows, you know, and that's that. And they go about their day. And meanwhile, they'll give everything they want to Israel. They'll give everything they want to the military-industrial complex. You know, so they're going to cut funding to actual things that help people and keep all the funding that goes to, you know, the deep state, the CIA, the federal police, the, you know, like justice system as a whole. They'll stack the courts, you know, like it's going to be standard stuff. So, and more authoritarian, same as the last authoritarians. So, good luck with that. You know, they're going to try to push digital IDs at the border. Like, I'm not buying it. Those are things for you to try to be like, well, it's not all bad. No, it's all bad. Oops, all war criminals. You know, oops, all Warhawks. So, and these are people that have actively shown that they're willing to capitulate to whoever, you know, whoever they need to capitulate to. Already flip-flopped 3 or 4 or 5 times. So, you know, and when you look a couple of layers deep into the connections they got, it don't look good. So, surface level, yeah, maybe, all right. But it ain't. So, good luck with that. I'm going to be here just like I was for the last administration going, it's full of shit.
Yeah.
So, but some people are paying attention. Some people are getting it. You know, they're figuring it out.
Well,
anyway.
As I said, I think we'll see. We'll definitely kind of follow up because I'm sure, you know, like January, February, we're going to hear more information about this. So this will definitely keep you guys updated. And Kit, if you're out there, we'll love to talk to you about this. I mean, again, no disrespect, but I am just kind of curious as to the optimism that you have on this. So we would love to talk to you about this if you are interested. So, but yeah, again, that being said, I do appreciate Kit giving a very
I think he's looking
thorough.
deeper, which means he's already like, you know, getting some cold feet on that, which is why he's like, it might be good, but
a
lot of bad stuff. It's like, I get it. He's trying to talk to the people who are like, yeah, it's good, but it's not.
And it might not be, now granted, you know, we read from it might not be for us, this article. It might be
that's what I meant.
for like the regular schmegular people who are not looking into this as deep, probably
deeply.
Even you, like you look into this more deeply than me. So I think, so if you're trying to do it, I'm not sure though if trying to bring a positive end is actually going to be the right thing to do in this. I think it's just like, here's the reality of the situation. We're fucked.
Yes.
So, you know, like, but here's what we should be doing. I think I just kind of wish that, now granted, Kit is not an activist. He's a journalist. So I'm not going to necessarily expect him to kind of talk about it in this way. But ideally, what we should be talking about is the things that we should be doing to counter this on the ground, you know? So he doesn't go into that here. And I don't expect him to. But those are the conversations that we need to be having moving forward, but not just for this administration. This is basically for any administration that is put in place. Because Democrats are going to do the same shit. Granted, they're going to be a little bit more clean about it, but they're still going to hold the same views, especially regarding Israel.
Yeah.
So, but stories like these are why we are demonetized. So the only way that we're able to get any funding or any, you know, push from YouTube is for viewers like you, and we appreciate you guys. So if you want to support us financially in whatever capacity you are able to muster, we understand it's the holiday season. Bills need to be paid on top of presents for your families, and probably like, you know, just a lot of extra money being spent towards food or whatever. And it's winter in at least in the northern US for me, so you're probably paying more for your bills, heating, all that stuff. Please make sure you take care of your families, yourselves, and your communities first. But if you have a couple extra dollars that you want to give to us, we will appreciate it. And it helps, as we've said earlier, keeps the lights on here and helps us grow our content here. The way you can do that, scan the QR code that you see on your screen right now, or go to the link that you see at the bottom of your screen right there. If you are in the YouTube chat, you can type in ! donate, and you can give money directly from that link that pops up. And as always, thank you guys. We love you. Please like, share, and subscribe our content. Since we can't, you guys essentially are the algorithm. We can't trust the AI of YouTube's algorithm to push it. So please do all those things and make sure to leave a comment. We do read them. We do appreciate, and you guys actually have been active in the comments. So thank you. Keep that up. And help us get to 3K. We're getting there slowly. Hopefully we'll be able to hit that by the spring, if not earlier. And thanks for watching. We love
Yeah.
you.